Okay, good morning. Let me know that you can hear me, please, and we'll get started. Okay, so welcome to the Canada GDP trade room and the 10-minute trades trade room. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director for 10-minute trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. Okay, so this is a small report that I might have overreached a little bit. It may be coming back, it might not be, so I wouldn't get overly excited about it, but it is price inflation news that could move the market. GDP has been having an effect on a lot of the markets, the GDP reports. So it's definitely possible it could have a decent move. And that was the main reason why I decided we could try and have the trade room. It's not, I don't anticipate a big move out of this event, but we'll see. Let me get the news set up here. Years ago, it was a tremendously big trade. I remember when I first got here, it was a report that we didn't trade. And it just seemed to me that it was certainly a possibility because every time I checked it, it moved the market a lot. And in those days, Canada also was $10 a tick. Now it's $5 a tick. So the Canada trades, they moved a lot better also. So things change. It's the way it goes. Here's the news. My guess, I know very little about what's going on in Canada. So I don't even have a guess on this, to be honest. I don't have a guess. I don't know if the news is good, going to be good, bad, and different. I'm really unsure about what's going on in Canada these days. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw my post. So there's a little bit of 6C movement this morning. Not, it trended down since about 7:30 in the morning. The Canadian dollar futures. So we'll see. You can see, let's look at the daily report. Not very big targets. So not anticipating a big move from this report. Did anybody look at last night's news reports? The two Chinese reports and the Australian report? So it's a mini, we call this a mini daily market mover because if you read it, the report hasn't been traded for a while. And, we're looking at it, we think it may be coming back. So what does it mean if a report's coming back? It means that it's starting to respond again to the news results. That's what we mean when we say a report might be coming back. So it's a 30-second cancellation rule. If you don't get filled in 30 seconds, you cancel. Targets are only 3 and 7. It's pretty small. And the stop is 8. So not expecting a very big move. Good morning, Derek. So let's look at February's report. February was a little bit strange in the price movement, if I remember correctly. So we traded it. So there was a move. It had a little bit of a move before the report, and then it had a low. One of the issues with Canada is it's pretty low liquidity. So you don't always get good fills with Canada, with the Canadian dollar futures. And I'm certainly, this isn't a trade I would put my whole account on the line for, because we're not sure yet if the report's back or not. Last month didn't really have a very confidence building move. It went up very low volume, didn't fill targets, and wound up losing a couple of dollars when it changed direction. So this is more informational trading, if you understand what I mean, which we do a moderate amount of informational trading. We're not always 100% certain a report's going to have a fantastic impact. You don't know that. So you could see it was a pretty dull moving report last month. It did have a pop, though. Did have a pop. If you get into November, so I'm just fast forwarding the video from November. So the news comes out. Looks like it's a little bit, didn't hit the investing.com website. That's why we use Financial Juice in the background. I can hear the news result in my headset because they speak it. In other words, one of the tools that I use is financialjuice.com, and we use the pro version. They have a squawk box, which is a fantastic feature. And I'm listening to they're repeating the news result that we would see from the investing.com website. So it's a really great feature. Squawk box. Years ago, we used to use a company in England that had a really good squawk box, and amazingly, they went out of business. And that's one of the only companies that we ever partnered with that went out of business. I don't think I recall that ever happening with another company. This is just one of those crazy things. It was called Talking Forex. Yeah. Now, a lot of times the news services are Forex related because there's a lot of people in the world trading Forex. Probably more Forex traders than futures would be my guess. But the news is the news. News that moves, a Forex pair is news that's going to move a future. Forex, I think it's a little bit more challenging because you have to figure out the right pair to trade. So I think it requires a little bit more research just in deciding which instrument to trade. So if we were to set this trade up, let's look at, before I set it up, let's look at another video. Let me look at November one more time. So November, we were trading it live. And it really was an official cancel because right there, 30 seconds is the official cancel rule. Now, what we are seeing though, since the world crisis began over 2 years ago, the way that news gets released, it's just been slower. So our cancel rules, we've been a little bit looser with them. And that was a pretty good move. If you notice, waiting a couple of seconds gave us a little profit on that trade rather than canceling it. Because we are seeing that news has been released more slowly. And we see that pretty regularly. So November, that's the kind of move we'd like to see. You know, the news comes out, you get a very nice burst or a drop in the index. It was delayed, but it shoots up nicely. So it took more than 30 seconds. Okay, so my son is having twins, and they are having them this week. With twins, if the babies don't come out pretty soon, like within a certain period of time, they induce, because they just have to be a lot more careful with twins. So we kind of know when the twins are, when they're going to start trying to get the twins to come, and it's tonight. Tonight's the first night that they have to go to the hospital. It's going to be quite a week. Quite a week. And I have to take care of his crazy dog because no one can watch. If they can't leave the dog home, they're going to be living in the hospital for a couple of days, maybe a week. So you could see that November, though, that was a good little move. Now, if we saw every month doing it that way, or most of the months that we're looking at, then of course you up your contracts and you trade larger. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing very inconsistent results from the news over the past 4 months or so. We've only brought this back recently. It's not, we haven't even been trading it for a full year since we put the report on the bench. We call it like baseball, it's on the bench. So the only thing I might do differently from the daily report is if you're here and you're trading. So the bracket is 4, okay? And you notice the targets are 3 and 7. So the targets are small. But if you have a good move, right? We don't know if we're going to have a good move or a lousy move or no move or a great move. You don't know. But we're here, we're trading. I might as well make that second target 15. Okay. I mean, I don't really anticipate a 50 tick move or anything like that. But I think it's not unreasonable to make it 15. So if there is a slightly bigger move, we could take advantage of it. Maybe it'll hit our targets and fill us. So rather than just saying, okay, 7 ticks is my maximum, there's no harm in increasing a target as long as you know that it may not get to your targets and you may have to manually manage yourself out of the trade. So when you make changes, there has to be a rational, intelligent reason why you might make one. In this case, possibility of getting a larger profit. And the opposite side of the coin is you may have to manage your way out of the trade, meaning you may have to move your stop or shrink your target during the trade if you're filled. Now, if there's no fill 45 seconds to a minute, then I probably would cancel. We should know if the news comes out because I'll hear it in my headset. So if there's absolutely no response, then I would consider canceling the trade because this is a report that generally elicits a response, okay? Because it's GDP data and the market thinks that that's important data generally. So there's a bunch of folks watching on YouTube. I want to thank you for coming in, and you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you know the next time we'll be streaming. So we've got a bracket of 4, targets of 3 and 15 I'm going to use instead of 3 and 7. And our stop is 8, and the entry time, or activation time, as we like to call it, is 8:29:58. The breakout trade. And I'm labeling the trade Canada GDP. And that's the setup. Apply it, okay it. Put my charts. Now last night I watched all 3 of the news reports. The first Chinese manufacturing report looked like if you got filled, the trade did not work. It was pretty small moving, not very impactful, and those reports have been pretty small as of late. And then that was it. There was also apparently confusion about the time of those reports. Investing.com had the wrong time. They showed as 8:30, and I thought it was at 8:30. And then when I went to check and watch the news, it looked like it was an 8 o'clock release. And that's something we've had to deal with, the sometimes inconsistent calendars in terms of time, and even just getting days of news releases completely wrong. And sometimes even when you check multiple sources, it's hard to get the times always perfect. But that and that could very well also be why a report is so dull. If they screw up the times, then half the traders are not there at the right time. And then the Kaishin report looked like it was a tiny little winner. That was at 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I also was interested. I thought that the Australian bank statement would be a monster mover. I really thought it would be a monster. And it was, I would say, if we had been trading it, we would have canceled the trade because it had a lack of movement. But eventually, but it slowly had about a 15 tick move over about 4 minutes or so. And that's not very much for a bank report. And also, if you think about it, a bank report, you might have a bracket, at least if it's a moving bank report, you might have a bracket of 8 or 10 or at least 6. And that eats up a lot of that 15 tick move. So not much of an opportunity, I don't think, in that bank report, unless you traded it as a longer term trade. So that surprised me that the Australian rate statement did not really, I thought there'd be a burst. So let's check our time sync. One of the things we do is we need to put our computers in sync, and we do that by going to the website time.is. And that puts my computer in sync. It doesn't always put your computer in sync. And that's why if you look on your trade room taskbar above the charts, there's a folder. Looks like a file folder. And in that file folder are some little programs. One of the programs in there is D4 Time. And that's a program that'll help put your computer in sync, because we need our computers to have proper time sync, because everything we do is based around time. In other words, I'm setting my orders on the chart 2 seconds before the news is potentially released. So what if your computer is 3 seconds, 4 seconds out of sync? It could screw up a trade. So it is important to have your computer in proper time sync. The reason we don't use Windows time sync is because it's very buggy. So we've always used alternative methods. Also in our folder is this little clock. Topmost Clock, it's called. It's a little program that you can download. And if you put your cursor dead center in the middle of the clock and hold down the left mouse button, you can move it. And if you put your cursor dead center and click your right mouse button, you can edit the clock, change the appearance, the size. So the Canadian dollar wants to move before the report. And it moves in ticks, but it's not 1 point per tick. It's like 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, if you follow me. So Derek, how do you get the clock on the screen? After it's installed, it automatically shows up on the screen, actually, at least on every computer I've ever installed it on. Otherwise, if you go to your Windows key and look for the program, after you install it, it might actually be in your list of programs, but if not, it'll be, if you go to all programs, it'll be in your Windows accessories folder. And it's called Topmost Clock. It's in Windows accessories. You'll see the little clock in there, usually anyway. And mine is not. It's actually, mine is above the Windows accessories folder. So you could look for the Topmost Clock folder, open it, and then drag the icon to your taskbar. And see, the clock is now on my taskbar. And then when you click the icon, it turns the clock, turns it on. turn my recorder on here. So the main number is GDP month over month.
Says it is exploring emergency financing packages for the region. EBRD board of directors supports the proposal to suspend Russia and Belarus indefinitely from financing access. Government has 30 days to vote on a resolution.
Okay, so we have about 3.5 minutes to go. My gut feeling, it just, sometimes you have a feeling. I'm not feeling a very big move today. Doesn't mean anything. I don't trade on my feelings. But if I had to predict, my prediction would be not much of a move. It could be partly because the markets are more concerned with war. It makes news events a little bit less impactful when the situation in the world is the way it is right now. Our next room will be back here at 9:30. So we're just waiting now, watching and waiting. That's our job. Check your setup, make sure everything's correct. If you're trading in SIM, make sure your account says SIM. If you're trading real money, make sure your account's on real money. All right, so we got about a minute and 15 seconds. 15 seconds. And there's pre-report movement. DJ go, Canada go. So the amount of ticks that is 4. Bear with me. Let's watch. 10 seconds. I think there will be a fill. This is a report that generally fills pretty quick. News not out.
0%, in line with the forecast.
So it's almost matching news. I would cancel the trade. Okay? I would cancel the trade. So I canceled and got filled at the exact moment that I canceled. So I'll shrink my stop because I'm not willing to lose much, which is too bad. The news, I mean, it's it's a teeny bit negative. It's a teeny bit negative, but it's dull. It's dull because of the news result. The annualized GDP is a little bit positive, so you have a little bit mixed results, which unfortunately, the second I canceled, I got filled. Literally the second, which is too bad. Now, all I can do is, there's nothing you can do except wait and let the market take you out. I knew the market would take me out. So no move really, except a dull fill, which is really too bad. Really too bad. Not much you can do. You know, like you cancel it the second you get filled. It's just bad luck. It's just a little bit of bad luck. Just a heads up. So the next time we're here, I want to give people, if you're on YouTube and you want to come into the room, I'm being told that the freetraderoom.com link is not working properly. You can come in by going to 10mtpro.com. 10mtpro.com if you want to come into our trade room this week. Here's the link. 10mtpro.com. Paste that into your browser. Any questions, folks? We'll be back at 9:30. We've got final manufacturing, ISM manufacturing, and I expect a little bit more activity out of those reports than Canada GDP. You could see Canada GDP. A little bit disappointing, unfortunately, that it didn't cancel, that the second I canceled, I got filled. So that's a little bit of bad luck. So any questions, folks? Any questions? Otherwise, I'll see everybody at 9:30. See everybody at 9:30. Final manufacturing, and then ISM manufacturing will stay in the room. And then 10mtpro.com if you're on YouTube and you'd like to come into the room. So look, eventually it started going up, which is too bad. Too bad. So let's look at the video while we're here before we go. Let's take a quick look at the video of what happened. So the news came out. The major news was almost exactly as expected. And my feeling was the result was going to be pretty dull. So it took a little bit to come out, took a few seconds. You see the news is out and there's not much of a reaction at all. And just as I was getting ready to cancel, it filled me. So I just combined my orders, tried to shrink them down to get out with a few ticks. And unfortunately, it didn't allow me to do that. And 65. And that's about where the price was. You could see my fill was at the top almost. I got filled at 60. In other words, the price popped and filled me not in a good place. You want to get filled lower down, not higher up. So not a great opportunity. Not a great opportunity because of not a very good move. All right, so I'll see everybody In about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, not quite an hour, we'll be back. Now, interestingly, the index is moving up. So quarterly was 1.6. So you have a lot of different elements that are making up this news. And I think the market is looking at the annualized as positive, or a bullish, an upward number. But some of the results are mixed. In other words, they're not all on the same side of what was expected. So it is what it is. Next trade will be better, yes. Okay, folks, I'll see everybody in about 45 minutes or so. A little bit longer. We'll be here at 9:30. So I'll see everybody in a little bit. See you soon. Take care.